Hi, this is me just kind of using my YouTube channel to process some stuff because things have been going on in the world that are pretty complicated and I'm really struggling with what I understand and where I need to grow and how I wish things were different and stuff like that. And I'm fortunate to have a couple of friends who one friend has a biracial child and the other friend is herself biracial. And over this issue that's become kind of a world tension point, that I guess falls under the idea or the banner of Black Lives Matter. I've been almost afraid to have an opinion because right now there seems to be a tendency for everyone to be hypersensitive that anyone who isn't blacks can't really have an opinion right now. All we can do is sit back and absorb and listen to and learn from the opinions of black people or biracial people. And I'm struggling a little bit, I guess, with understanding how we move forward if we're not allowed to have dialogue. And maybe it's just the beginnings of shut up for a minute, so because you haven't been hearing, so let me speak first and then we can have a dialogue. And I hope that's really what we're experiencing is that people need to be heard, and they can't be heard in dialogue because that means for some of the time they have to be silent while they're being responded to. And being silenced, I think, is one of the things that black people are struggling with and are trying to overcome. It was interesting when I was having probably my first frank conversation with a friend about what's been going on and how terribly we feel about, especially what's been going on south of the border and how this is boiled over with such extreme rage and anger and, violence and destruction and theft and all kinds of things. And, I'm not sure I'm okay with the violence and the destruction. And I've been listening to people's reasons and excuses for why they feel it's justified, and I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to learn from it. And in this conversation with my friends, the biracial and the mother of a biracial child, I used the analogy that I've used with most of the children in my life. When their brother smacks them, and so they turn around and haul off and smack their brother twice as hard. And when I confront them with that, their excuse for their or reason for being able to strike back was because they got hit first. Hey, he hit me, so that justifies me hitting back. I have a young foster boy who I guess you could say I'm kind of mentoring him. We hang out a bit and we talk a lot. He was describing for me an instant where a fellow from school broke into his home and stole his laptop and his backpack and a couple other things. And this child didn't know that they had a video camera, and so the kid knew exactly who it was that did this. And so he got another friend and reciprocated by breaking into this guy's house, stealing back his stuff, and then taking a whole bunch of other stuff. And he felt wholly justified in doing this because it was done to him first. And of course, he got caught, and he ended up with community service hours as a result of him being caught and convicted of B&E. So, you know, I've had this conversation many, many times with young people, basically under the framework of don't justify your bad behavior by someone else's bad behavior. So don't say it's okay for me to behave badly because someone else also behaved badly towards me. Because ultimately, what we all want to agree is the behavior is bad, right? We don't want to repeat what has already been identified in your own life as bad. So, and using the excuse that, well, I'm justified now to do this because that person did it to me. No, overall, that act, breaking and entering or hitting someone, the act itself is wrong and shouldn't be justified as a reciprocation to it being experienced towards you. So I was kind of, you know, thinking in those terms around trying to understand why I'm so uncomfortable with the burning of buildings and the breaking into department stores and stealing stuff. And I know the reasoning and the rationale is that, well, that's only a few people. Most of the people are just wanting to protest peacefully, and that's certainly not what was being shown in media. And so I have to kind of filter that through. As the media, I'm seeing a lot of destruction. I'm seeing a lot of property damage. I'm seeing a lot of criminal activity. I'm seeing violence towards police officers that's unwarranted, in that the police officer wasn't doing anything to warrant any more than, you know, any violence would be warranted. So I'm struggling with trying to, you know, get my thoughts around this and saying, you know, this response, this violent, illegal, criminal response isn't justified. No matter what reasoning I hear, it isn't justified. And so my friend with a biracial child said to me, so what if, she summed it up. She said, so you're saying that if Johnny hits Bobby, you're telling Bobby, don't hit Johnny back, right? That's just because Johnny hit you, Bob, doesn't mean that it's okay for you to hit Johnny back. Trust that Johnny will be dealt with, right? Johnny's behavior will be punished or will be corrected. And under that umbrella, I'm imagining that there's an authority figure, a parent, someone's around for Bobby to come to and say, hey, Johnny just hit me. And that parent is going to, that authority figure is going to, do whatever corrective measure that needs to be done with Johnny. And so my friend said to me, so what if Johnny hits Bobby and Bobby goes and tells the parent and the parent ignores him? And Johnny looks for every opportunity he can whenever the parents aren't looking to hit Bobby, and Bobby's getting hit over and over and over and over again. And this goes on for years and years and years. And then one day finally, Bobby just can't take it anymore, and he turns around and beats the absolute shit out of Johnny. So do you then see how maybe in that case Bobby had a leg to stand on? And you know, I hadn't considered that, right? I hadn't thought, well, yeah, I suppose if Bobby's getting pummeled and he's telling the parent, the authority, you know, I'm getting hit over and over and over again, and the parent doesn't do anything ever to fix it or correct it, at some point, I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess maybe I can see why Bobby would finally just say, screw it. I'm hitting back. I'm not taking this peaceful bow down approach that, you can't justify bad behavior in yourself through bad behavior in others, because no one was addressing what Johnny was doing. So that did give me a different framework to think about this and consider this situation. So I've been mulling that over and trying to fit it into this. What I'm actually seeing is, to mirror this to what's been happening in the Black Lives Matter movement and what occurred. It's almost more like Johnny hit Bobby finally so hard that he killed him, because Johnny's been able to get away with hitting him as hard as he wanted all throughout their relationship. And Bobby's brother then turned around and beat the living snot out of Johnny, and then Johnny's brother and Johnny's cousin and Johnny's mother, and burnt down Johnny's house. And and then he called more of his friends together and continued to destroy everything that was in Johnny's life, because no one was listening to Bobby. And so I guess I'm trying to expand my ability to think differently and understand better, and to grasp ideas. I mean, one of the things I said to my friends is, I'm not sure if I'm prejudiced or not, because I grew up in such a white community. Like, honest to God, there was one Black family in our city, and we all know who the family was, and I had no interactions with them. My first interactions with multiracial people was at university, and I had varying degrees of comfort with them, mostly around the fact that some of them spoke languages I didn't understand, so I couldn't form relationships with them, and I didn't know what they were saying, so I couldn't engage with them. So I guess that built up a mistrust in me around those groups of people. But my real exposure to people of color really only came to me through GM. And I guess for everyone I dealt with at GM, I saw them first as what role they played in the workplace for me, and my relationship forming for everyone. I always wanted to know people on a personal level. I wanted to know who they were, because I felt like those relationship building opportunities helped us to work better as a team. If we knew each other and knew about each other's lives a little bit, it didn't matter to me whether you were Japanese, Chinese, Black, white, Russian, German. It didn't matter. What mattered to me is that we had a relationship inside that company, and we were jointly trying to achieve goals together, and that's all that really mattered to me. Half the time we met people through teleconferences and had no idea whether they were Black or white or Chinese, or sometimes accents gave people away. But I hope, it's my heart hope, that I don't hold prejudice against people for their race. I do have characters in people that I'm not comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with people who mislead. I'm not comfortable with really obscene amounts of bad language to communicate with. I'm not comfortable with bullying behavior. There's behaviors I'm not comfortable with, but I don't know or believe that I tie those to a specific race in any way. Anyway, I want I want to understand better. I'm trying to expose myself to some of these share the mic events. I am going to try and get my hands on some books written by, you know, people of color to hear the storytelling from that perspective, and try and be part of this movement of what I agree is a worldwide problem, with how Black people are treated in the world, and how we as a collective need to do better, and that I'm on the white side of this, so I really need to do the work to do better. Anyways, I don't mean to ramble. I just thought I'd share that I'm trying to have dialogue, and I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to put things in perspective. And I know many other of my friends are, and there's still a level of discomfort of whether or not we can have an opinion, and that opinion won't offend anyone, because there's always an opportunity to offend. There's also an opportunity to educate and learn from each other. Anyway, peace to everybody. Take care. Bye.